Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Back Nine Report. Every week we get together and check in on the world of golf to bring you the latest news, insights, analysis, interviews, recaps, previews. Hey, we cover anything and everything golf. In other words, if it happened in golf, we have it for you. Every week, Fred Alvader is with me, my co-host, but hey, you know that when we need reinforcements or whenever either one of us is not here, we have to bring in the best co-host that we can bring in, and who better than the European golf guru, our colleague and friend Kieran Clark, to be with us. So Fred is not here this week, but hey, we have the best one that we can get for him, and it's Kieran. Kieran, welcome to the show once again. How are you this week?
Well, thank you, Carlos. And I guess you could say I'm kind of Fred's stunt double. I'm stepping in for him here. I'm taking the big bumps. I'm taking the big hits here. I'm obviously the model replacement for Fred. We look so much alike, so that's obviously part of the reason why I replace him. Um, Mind you, well, I suppose I could look like Fred in 30 years. Isn't that a thought? That's a bit depressing, but we won't go for that right now. Obviously, we will miss Fred this week, Carlos, but we have so much to discuss. Obviously, a really, really exciting weekend for golf. We saw Sergio come back and win on the PGA Tour again. Fantastic winning shot there to win the Sanderson Farms. We also saw R&A winning the Scottish Open in a week of just contrasting weather conditions from apocalyptic to actually quite nice at times. So it was a fascinating week there in Scotland. And of course, we also saw Mel Reid finally win on the LPGA Tour for the first time, an emotional victory for a hugely popular player, and actually completes a 2 week, what 2 weeks for England, both winning, Georgia Hall and then Mel Reid winning on the LPGA Tour. So great times for English golfers. They're winning, of course, R&A as well. And then, of course, this week, Carlos, we've got the Women's PGA Championship from Aronimink, a classic golf course, really tough golf course, true major test for the women's game. Should be a fascinating week. And Bryson DeChambeau and Colin Morikawa, they're both playing on the PGA Tour. So we'll see if Bryson, how big he is this week. Has he been pumping the iron? Has he been taking the protein shakes over the past couple of weeks since that US Open triumph? Who knows? I can't wait to see that. So there's a lot to discuss, a lot to recap, a lot to preview, and a lot of fascinating storylines, Carlos. So I can't wait to get to it.
A lot of them, but anyway, first of all, I want to, whether you are a classical rock fan or not, you have to be, I want to say, my condolences to the Van Halen family because Eddie Van Halen
Yeah,
died today. I'm a huge Van Halen fan, so that's why I have
yeah,
to
one of the
bring it
greats.
up. Yeah, I mean, he could play the guitar like no one else, and he could
Yeah,
do things to the guitar that somebody would say it's just illegal to do. But anyway, he did. He was a very influential guitarist, and
mm,
the music of Van Halen definitely changed the way to see rock. And I was talking to a friend earlier today. I was telling him, look, what happened because Van Halen was very famous rock band, but he really was brought into the mainstream when Michael Jackson brought him to do the solo for Beat It,
yes.
and that's when everybody said, "Oh wow, who is that guy?" So. And anyway, he has a Hall of Fame career. He battled cancer for a long time, and anyway, our condolences go to his family. His son Wolfgang was the one who tweeted it today, and that's how it got out. But hey, great, great guy and a influential person in classical rock. So
It certainly was, Carlos. And I was reading about this earlier, and I'm not a great expert in music or the world's greatest guitarist, but from what I've read, I think just about everybody who you ask, anyone who knows what they're talking about, would put him in the top five of all time guitarists. And I think that, and given so many of the legends that we've seen through the decades, to be in the top five almost universally, that's a sign of immense talent and, as you say, incredible influence that will live long into the future.
definitely, and he was maybe the one that brought in the tapping on the guitar to
Mm,
fame. So anyway, we're here to talk about golf, but wanted to get that in there. So every week we start with a week in backspin where we recap this past weekend's action. And as you all know, for this years that you've been listening and now looking at us, I always talk about Sergio Garcia, and I always used to be, hey, who's gonna win this week? Hey, Sergio is gonna win. I have stopped because he stopped winning, and for
You
my
were a
own
curse
good,
on him, I think.
yeah, I think he might have. I didn't want him to directly tell me stop picking me because I'm not winning anymore. But no, hey, he can open his eyes now. I think he can because, he's now 40 years old, but he has resorted again to putting with his eyes closed. And now he's a winner again on the PGA Tour. It's the first time since he won the 2017 Masters. And when he was asked about it on Friday, so this is not that he did it on Sunday only, he said, would you believe me if I told you I've been doing it for about 3 years? I've been on and off. But like Augusta, I wanted playing with my eyes closed every single pod and some of the other wins too. So whether you believe him or not, that's what he was doing. He has resorted to putting again with his eyes closed. It's working. And the funny thing is that Brent Snedeker was asked about that afterwards. And he said, you know what? If he keeps winning, I'm going to try it, and others are going to try it too. So, uh, I mean, funny or not, that's how it happened. But anyway, that list for Sergio now includes of wins, includes the Sanderson Farms Championship because he broke out of that prolonged slump with a final round of 5 under 67, and that was at the Country Club of Jackson, and he beat Peter Malnati with a birdie on the final hole to notch his 11th PGA Tour title. Afterwards, he dedicated the victory to his father, Victor. He has lost two brothers, Paco and Angel, to COVID-19 back in his native Spain, so he really wanted to do it for them. He has been mired in a prolonged slump. I mean, recording just one top 10 finish since February, and he missed three of his last four cuts. He even failed to qualify for the FedEx Cup playoffs, and in the latest indignity, he dropped out of the top 50 in the official World Golf rankings for the first time in 9 years. So, but the primary culprit really was a putter that, for some reason, has been disobeying him. Uh, who disobeys Sergio? I mean, anyway, he ranked number 187 in strokes gained putting last season and entered the week at number 246 in that same statistical category this season. The Sirius XM PGA Network analyst Dennis Paulson noticed no player comes out of a putt faster than Sergio. And as he was searching for his game, Sergio flirted with various putting grips. If you have seen, he was changing putting grips before he started now freeing up his stroke by closing his eyes when he putted. So he hold the chuckles and jokes of desperations because it worked. I mean, he made 55 of 56 putts from inside 5 feet and gained strokes against in the field on the greens in all four rounds. Garcia has long been a peerless driver of the ball. I mean, and among the best ball strikers. But even his bread and butter parts of his game weren't up to his usual standard as he was struggling with an equipment change, which added to that. Now, he said that he found something with his ball striking, and the stats now back him up. He led the field in driving distance, ranked first in strokes gained off the tee and strokes gained tee to green. Now, Peter Malnati, who won here in the 2015, he had a glorious day there. I mean, he started the day 5 strokes off the pace and teed off nearly 2 hours before Sergio. He made birdie on 7 of his first 12 holes to join the trophy hunt. Peter right now is 33, but he was mostly thinking, if you ask him, he was mostly thinking at the start of the day, I might get a top 10 finish that would, qualify me for the tour event in Las Vegas this week. But then his putter got hot. I mean, he rolled in 139 feet of putts in this final round, including a 33-foot birdie putt at number 17. He pumped his fist 3 times, and for the moment, he led by 3 strokes. He fired the low round of the day, 963. That was an amazing, enough for most of people to win. He claimed the clubhouse lead at 18 under, then held a picnic on the club's front lawn with his wife, and his 11-month-old Hatcher. I mean, he just saw player after player not being able to meet his total. So Then Sergio made 4 birdies, but he also made 2 bogeys on the front nine. So, including when he missed a 5 foot putt at the sixth hole. During that slump, Garcia has been a leader of, if not sad, then stern faces, but he refused to be deflated by that miss. So a lot of the players have a test of Sergio's new improved attitude, and it hasn't gone unnoticed by him. He's more calmer. Even Brent Snedeker said, after having kids now, he's even more more calmer in that he would be in the course. And it really, I mean, he's always been a talented player, and his talent shine and caught Malnati in dramatic fashion. He was on the par 5 14 begging for that 5 wood from 260 yards to clear a front bunker. And he did. And it trickled to inside 4 feet for an eagle. That got him going. Then he delivered that knockout punch at 18. I mean, he planted an 8 iron. And if you haven't seen it, look at it. Okay, from in Twitter, anywhere from 172 yards to inside 3 feet for a birdie to finish 19 under. That was the same club that he used to stiff his second shot at Augusta National's par 5 15 hole that set up his playoff victory and his lone major title. This time he hit it so close he could have made the putt, eyes open, eyes closed. Doesn't matter. He was gonna he tap it in, pump his fist, look to the sky, and then he realized he was a winner again. Kieran, a boost of confidence for him for sure, for this next month's Masters, and all that is still to come. I mean, he changed his approach now to the game. He has changed gears. He has new equipment, even a new wardrobe, and it seems like he's really peaking for a good time now at the Masters.
Well, very much so, and I'm glad you had the stage there to celebrate Sergio's triumph at the Sanderson Farms, and it was a great victory. And you're right. I mean, it does set him up really well for the Masters, and I think you mentioned the slump of form that he's been on, particularly on the PGA Tour in the past 3.5 years. It's been most evident in the major championships. I mean, he has really struggled in the majors since he won the Masters. I mean, he's missed, I think he's only made 3 cuts in the last 3.5 years in majors, finished way down the field, not being competitive in the biggest events whatsoever. When Sergio finally had that breakthrough at Augusta, I think we felt this is going to be potentially the moment where he goes on and maybe secures the multiple majors that his career perhaps deserved. Certainly his talent would have merited that, but it hasn't happened. But he's still only 40 years of age, and we forget that. He's been around forever and playing at a high level for so long. And if you look at the facts and the stats, Carlos, I mean, I think that's now 3 distinct decades that Sergio has won on the PGA Tour. And indeed, he has won in the past 3 years around the world. I mean, he did win in Singapore on the Asian Tour, and he's won twice in Andalusia at Valderrama in Spain, at the event he hosts there. And he's also won the Dutch Open, the KLM Open last September. So he's still picked up some success here or there in Europe and around the world, but his consistency hasn't been there at all. But consistency is perhaps a little bit overrated, providing when you have a good week, you actually benefit and win. And if he has more good weeks like this, then he'll take some missed cuts, assuming he can pick up some more victories. But certainly, as you say, his driving has always been peerless. His iron play has always been fantastic. He has got a very good touch around the greens when he's on. It's just sometimes on the greens he does struggle. And I think a little bit, maybe at times, he doesn't have the composure when things go against him at times. But he was peerless all week, really, at Sanderson Farms. Played brilliantly on Sunday, all 4 rounds in the 60s. As you say, he gained strokes in the field every day on the greens. So it ticks a lot of boxes, this victory for Sergio, and it sets him up for a lot of things in the future because, as you say, he's got the Masters. And as we all know, Sergio has been one of the greatest Ryder Cup players of all time for Europe, the record point scorer and so on. And I don't think anyone would have picked Sergio for the Ryder Cup had it gone ahead in September this year. But next year, with this win behind him, maybe that's going to be back in his sights and he could be on the Ryder Cup team once again, where he's been almost ever present for the past over 20 years. So fantastic win for Sergio. And you mentioned Peter Malnati, who's one of the most infectious personalities on the tour, very exuberant character, very popular, very likable. And he had a fantastic Sunday. Just as we discussed before we came on there, Carlos, one of those days where he did everything he could have done, and he just happened to be beaten by a touch of class at the end. So a great week for him. And there were some other guys who had some really good weeks. I actually thought one result that was interesting to see was that of Keegan Bradley, who finished fourth. And he's really struggled this year. I mean, we want to go back a couple of years ago, he was winning FedEx Cup playoff events and he was doing really well. And then this year he hadn't had a single top 10. Now he has a fourth place here. Perhaps we'll see Keegan Bradley rebound next year and have better success as he has had in the past. But certainly the story of this week was Sergio Garcia, great victory. He does divide opinion at times with people, but when he's on, there are few better players to watch, a few more talented players, a few more just players who can do. He's one of those few players who can do absolutely anything on a golf course. He has all the shots, and when he's on, he's just a joy to watch, and he was this week. So hopefully we see more of that coming up in the near future. And as you say, Carlos, Augusta National, maybe it's time for Sergio to show why he is a Masters champion in November.
Definitely, and that's one of the good things, I guess, that we always like to see in this start of the PGA Tour season is that, like we're seeing in the European Tour, and we're going to talk right now about it. It's you start to see some of those players that either they have not been playing well and get the chance to maybe get that touch of confidence that they need to get going. Like we have been talking about Martin Keimer on the European Tour. He seems like rejuvenated. It's like every week we're talking about him and other players as well. And here it's Sergio, and you mentioned Keegan Bradley, and we can say Stuart Sink also had a very good, is having a very good season so far, and had a very good tournament. He was around there. So also another player that you can say is Cameron Davis. He even led for a little while. He's another player that plays really well, but we haven't been listening too much about him. But it brings those opportunities. And they're in the European Tour. This is a name we know, Tommy Fleetwood, but the other one, Aaron Rai, is another one that we had talked about with potential. But finally, I mean, Tommy Fleetwood put some late Sunday drama there at the Aberdeen Standard Investment Scottish Open. But ultimately, it was Aaron Rai who had the last word, because when Fleetwood, the European Ryder Cupper, hold a 20-footer for birdie at the closing hole to catch Rai at 11, it meant, okay, now we have a playoff between the two Englishmen. At that point, you would say, who has the edge? Tommy. I mean, he has the experience. He's a Ryder Cupper. Aaron Rai is a star on the rise, right? But Fleetwood fell to Rai on the first playoff hole, even though Rai hit it in a bunker off the tee to give Fleetwood the early advantage. So even then, you would say, no, no way. But Fleetwood three-putted from just off the green to give Rai the title. For Rai, it's a bit of redemption because he had a runner-up finish last week's Dubai Duty Free Irish Open. His win now at the Renaissance Club in North Berwick, Scotland, also moves him inside the top 5 in the Race to Dubai rankings and into the top 100 in the official World Golf rankings. He moved up the leaderboard on the strength of final round of 64. He really played for winning there. It followed previous rounds of 70, 69, and 70. Fleetwood was under 70 all week, and there was only one of two players to do that. The other one was Mark Warren, who finished in the tie for 4th with Lucas Abert at 9 under. Robert Rock, another Englishman, was alone at third at 10 under. So Kieran, Aaron Rai is a name that we started talking about it maybe a couple of years ago as this up and coming English player, and hasn't really fulfilled. He has been on and off, but it seems like he's right now like putting it together. And these last 2 weeks, we really have seen what he's capable of.
Very much so. As you say, it was in 2017 that Aaron Rai, he won 3 times that year on the Challenge Tour, and that gained him an automatic upgrade qualification onto the European Tour. So he really was at that point. He was 22 at that time. He was going to be the next big thing. And we've heard that so many times in the past, and very few players really become that. But it has been a slow burn over the past 3 years. He's had to kind of learn his trade week by week, had ups and downs. He did win in Hong Kong last year. That was a big moment for him. But this is on another level. As you say, Carlos, to beat somebody, to beat a field of this quality. We have Tommy Fleetwood up there, one of the top players in the world over the past few years, and to win a Rolex Series event brings big money, big kudos, lots of ranking points, and it's a huge confidence boost. And the way he won it as well was hugely impressive. I mean, the final round was spectacular, the way he played, but he had to grind it out as well. Had to make par on the 18th in regulation, made a big par there, and that could have very easily won the tournament outright until, as you say, Tommy made that putt on the last to get in the playoff. And then in the playoff, R&A recovers from his position to make par again from there. So he had to really scramble and work hard for the win. So he showed different sides of his game. He obviously has spectacular golf in shooting 64, but he also had to grind out under pressure in the end. So a great win for him. Fantastic. It was a real shocking moment, however, when Tommy Fleetwood missed that putt in the playoff. No one saw that coming. Yeah, I think given the way he got into the playoff, making that birdie under pressure, and also the way he, gone into the week and actually presented himself during the week. Because on the Saturday, Carlos, a storm hit that part of Scotland, and it was horrendous. I mean, the weather was unimaginably bad on the Saturday. I mean, they played through it, so wet, didn't stop raining. I mean, guys went through multiple gloves during the round. It was really tough. It took someone with a sense of humour and a positive personality to play well in that. Unfortunately for Tommy Fleetwood, he has both, and he was very upbeat about it. He said, well, you know what, it's golf. It's fun. You have to embrace it and enjoy it. We get paid a lot of money to come and do this, so why would I complain about it? So he had that refreshing attitude. I think a lot of people wanted to see him actually go on and win, having shown that personality. But R&A is a great winner, fantastic. And also in that, towards the end there, Robert Rock was right there too, and he made an astonishing error in the last hole to miss out on the playoff. He was in absolute perfect position, just missing the fairway on the right-hand side on the 18th, had to make a par for the playoff, a birdie at the last to win the tournament outright. He hits his approach just slightly short of the green, deliberates forever. Is he going to putt it? Is he going to chip it? Elects to chip it, hits a poor shot, ends up making 5 and misses out in the playoff. And a crushing blow for him too, as he was there all week and really fought hard. But R&A, as you say, he's a star of the future. He's an emerging player, a really impressive talent. Has a unique look with the 2 gloves on either hand, which is obviously something we don't see very often. That's something he does all the time. And I say he's a great player, and he's finally shown that promise that we saw a few years ago. And so we say this all the time, Carlos. We're guys who they do really well on the web or the Corn Ferry Tour, or indeed the Challenge Tour, and you think they're going to be the next big thing, and they don't quite, replicate it. Guys like Matt Wolff and Colin Morikawa, they're kind of the exception. They come on the tour and they just hit the ground running, and that's a rare thing. That's why they're so impressive. Victor Hovland too, obviously. But guys like R&A, it takes a little bit longer, but he's finally got there. And you could argue, you look at Tommy Fleetwood, he was very similar. He was a slow burner too. His career took quite a few years to get going, had some ups and downs, and he's become one of the best players in the world. And ultimately, in terms of ability, there's no reason why R&A can't become one of those top players. And we'll talk about the BMW PGA at Wentworth shortly, Carlos. But going into that, R&A will be one of the favourites going into that event. And he has a good week there. And he's got a very good chance of actually being competitive in terms of winning the race to Dubai and becoming European Tour #1, which would be an immense achievement. So, yeah, the future is looking pretty bright if you're R&A right now.
Definitely, and we always talk about what winning does to your confidence. It doesn't matter where you win. It's a win is a win. And right now for him, uh, I was reading about Brent Snedeker talking about the Peter Malnati that he should be feeling pretty good, even though he didn't come out on top, because he says, we are always a swing away from feeling like we can win anywhere, or a swing away from feeling like we're in the wrong sport. That's how golf goes, and that's how it is. And once you get it going, you can feel like you can win anywhere. And you mentioned he beat a very good field, so he should be feeling pretty confident moving forward. And another player that really also got that monkey off her back is Mel Reed. And she sank a 2 foot putt on the 18th green. Then moments later, took a well-deserved swig of champagne to celebrate her first career LPGA Tour victory on Sunday. I mean, it had been a long time coming. She's now 33 years old. She's an English native. She shot at 4 under 67 on the Bay course at Seaview Hotel and Golf Club to win the 1.3 million ShopRite LPGA Classic by 2 shots over Jennifer Kupko. Now, she finished with a 72-hole total of 19 under, earned 195,000. She began Sunday with a one-shot lead. Now, she had been in the same position 2 weeks ago at the Cambria Portland Open Classic, Portland Classic in Oregon, where she took a 2-shot lead into the final round. But that final day, she shot a 2 over 74 and then watched as her compatriot Georgia Hall won in a playoff. She glanced at Twitter on Saturday night. She saw this tweet that was from someone saying she would choke Sunday like she did in Portland. And then she said, after the tournament, that it gave her a little bit of motivation and that she was going to take a picture of her and the trophy with a big shush face, like, hey, see, I choke, right? So it was so funny. But anyway, for Kupko, who's really in her second year right now on tour, was troubled by an inflammation in her upper back this week and shot a 68 on Sunday. Jennifer Song shot a 69, finishing third place, 3 shots back of Reed. Kupko and Song also were seeking their first LPGA win, so one of those three was going to be the first-time winner on this tournament. Now, because of COVID-19, this was a classic unlike any other since the tournament began in 1986. There were no fans, so there were no grandstands, skyboxes, or leaderboards on the course. Mostly sunny skies, steady wind conditions greeted the players on Sunday. A group of LPGA players and caddies were gathering on the mounds behind the 18 to watch Reed finish. And after that final putt, they doused her with champagne and beer. Reed then called her dad, Brian, to celebrate with him. She has overcome a lot in her life. Her mother, Joy, was killed back in 2012 in a car crash in Dachau, Germany. She was 62 at the time. Brian and Joy were that time in Germany to watch Mel play in the Ladies European Tour event. Then they were involved in a head-on collision. Brian survived with broken ribs, and unfortunately, her mom didn't. So Reed said, that it felt like her mother was with her on Sunday. And Kieran, before the Classic, Reed already boasted an impressive resume. Of course, not here in the LPGA, but let's look at it from the European side. I mean, she had represented Europe already 3 times in Solheim Cups, won 6 times in the latest European Tour. With the last victory, it was 2017, but hey, she has. The only thing that was missing for her right now was an LPGA victory for now. And for years, we have talked about her. We have felt like she was ready to contend. I mean, she had the talent. She has the talent to contend week in and week out, but it wasn't until now. And I think just like we were talking about it, with the pressure of this first win lifted, who knows what she will achieve, Karen?
Absolutely, and she described it as being life changing. And you mentioned Rand Snedeker talking about every one shot, the next shot could change everything for you. Golf's one of those games, and we've seen it so many times where every week, every player in the field has an opportunity to change their life and achieve something and transform their fortunes. And Mel Reid has done that on the LPGA Tour, finally securing that first win. And as you say, it was an emotional win. She has come through an awful lot. She's spoken, very in depth about how challenging, as you can imagine, the years after her mother's tragic death were, and trying to overcome that, and then just the pressures of tour life generally. And she has overcome a lot to get back to this level. She was a very promising player when she was younger, had that obviously emotional hurdle to overcome in 2012. And even in the past few years, she's tried to, as the LET struggled to put together a decent schedule from recent years, Mel has tried to establish herself in America. But it's very hard to do so unless you win. I mean, that's ultimately the way to punch your ticket and get a place on the tour permanently. and now she has that. The doors will now open. She'll have that security to play on the tour for the next couple of years, and that's going to be a massive thing for her. And as you say, given the way she's played of late, came so close in Portland, obviously saw Georgia winning there. To have the two English players winning back-to-back on the LPGA Tour, that's a really rare thing. I think we're going back to the mid-1990s since something like that happened. So it's a long time coming. And as you say as well, overcoming the fact that she lost that lead 2 weeks ago too. And even though you mentioned the guy on Twitter who said she would choke, I didn't realise, by the way, that Johnny Miller was on Twitter, but there we are, apparently he is. But it must be an alias he's tweeting under these days. But
burner account,
the burner account, exactly. There's a lot of those going around apparently. One of those bots online. But yeah, so she had to overcome that as well. And that's a massive thing, overcoming this recent events. But she has a great perspective, and I say a very popular personality. As you saw at the end that you mentioned celebrations, when all the players come on to the green and celebrate with you, you know you're a popular person when they do that. When people are happy to see you win, it says a lot. And if you were on social media on Sunday after the winning putt, you saw media, other players, personalities in the game who were all happy to see Mel win, and that just shows the kind of person that she is and the way she's highly regarded. As you say, Carlos, a Solheim Cup stalwart. She didn't play last year. She was one of the vice captains. She just missed out on the team. Obviously, she'll be hoping to get back in that team next time. In particular, if she can get some more success, in America, that'll almost guarantee that. And as well, you mentioned obviously what can she do next? What can be the next achievement? And coming up to a major championship, the women's PGA. We'll talk about it later. Now she has that victory. Pressure's off. She can just freewheel it from here, and who knows what she can achieve. And as you say as well, with her age, I mean, obviously the women's game tends to skew younger historically than the men's game. Well, that's beginning to change now when you see the guys like Matt Wolff and Morikawa and so on. But to get a victory like this at 33 after well over a decade on tour, it's been a long time coming, and it's good to see. Great triumph, great victory, and I look forward to seeing what she does next. That's assuming, however, she might play well this week, but only if she's overcome the hangover from Sunday, which could be up for debate.
Yeah, she mentioned she had a good celebration, expensive one. So hopefully she's over it.
She's earned it though.
Yeah, she does, and nobody could fault her if she just doesn't do well this week. She deserves it. But we know she will be ready for this weekend, and we'll talk about that pretty soon on the practice range. But anyway, the last recap is about the Corn Ferry Tour, where Evan Harmerling took advantage of some cheeky play by Kevin Doherty down the stretch and then birdie in first play of hole to pick up his first Corn Ferry Tour win Sunday at the Landings Club Deer Creek course. He's trailing by 2 shots with 2 holes to play at the Savannah Golf Championship. Harmerling birdied the number 18 to force then the sudden death playoff, repeated again by making a birdie at 18, which was the playoff hole. Now, Doherty, who was also looking for his first Corn Ferry Tour, had a 10-footer for the outright win by his putt, but slipped past the hole and his slide continued in the playoff. He's 29 years old, Doherty, and the funny thing for him, well, not for him, funny thing to mention, is that, he's getting married this Saturday. And he lives here in Dallas, and he was scheduled to fly out of Savannah for his native California at 5:30 p.m. on Sunday. But then he had to change plans when he found himself in the final grouping. So oh my God, what do I do? But anyway, apparently the 20th time was the charm for Harmerling, because he's a 32-year-old Princeton University graduate, Boston native, won in his 20th start on the Corn Ferry Tour. The previous best, a tie for 14th at an event in Portland. Now, this win is worth $108,000 for Hammerling, who had previously had won only $40,859 this year, until the tournament ranked 114th in the points list. Now, with this win, 500 points jump him all the way up to 32nd place. Doherty jumped from 134th to 59th. Now, why it's important, because the top 75 retained their Corn Ferry Tour status for the next season. George Cunningham, Austin Truslow, Brett Coletta, Shad Ramey, and Eric Cole, who was in the final grouping, all shared third place at 19 under. Former Armstrong State University Division II All-American Chad Tuten closed with a 3 under 69 and finished at 22nd at 14 under, which automatically qualified him for this next week's tournament in Orlando, Florida. He moved up 3 spots from 74th to 71st place, Kieran.
Yes, indeed. And as you see, a big week for both of these guys, both Harmerling and Doherty, rocketing in both of them up the rankings, securing their status for next year on the Corn Ferry Tour, and obviously a huge financial injection for Evan Harmerling as well, getting that victory out of nowhere. As you say, there was no real form to speak of, no top tens, hadn't done very much on the tour so far. So the win here is massive, and it was quite funny. I can't really add too much to what you said there, Carlos, but you see this. So Evan Harmerling had an interesting little superstition. And golfers are very superstitious, Carlos, as you know. They do very silly things where they have certain coins in their pocket all the time and all various different things. You know, Fred, I know, has so many superstitions, it's unreal. I mean, he goes around with a rabbit's foot. He's sacrificing animals before every single round he plays. He's doing everything. He's got it all done. So he's so superstitious. But Evan Harmelin, he was so impressed by his 67 on Saturday to get into contention that he actually decided to wear the exact same outfit on Sunday, right down to his socks. Did you not see this? This is incredible. This is on golf.com. So he wore the identical outfit Saturday to Sunday. That's how superstitious this guy is. And did you see his beard? He's got a huge beard. I mean, beard was so out of fashion. Shane Lowry brought them back last year when he won the Open. So Evan Harmeling's clearly a character. So yeah, there we are. So he is now a winner. And I look forward to seeing what he's going to do next year. And of course, we can say now he has that $108,000 in the bank. He can now try and expand his wardrobe slightly and have different outfits for every round.
We can only hope that he does that, right?
Well, I'm
at
thinking
least, at least
hopefully
shave.
washed overnight. Yes.
Yeah, wash it at least. You know, I don't know if he washed it or not. That would be just weird. Because at least, you know, he should have washed it, because if he's that superstitious, he said, well, I wore it clean when I started, so he should have done the same thing.
Ah, I see. See, Carlos,
See.
this is the thing. You're too smart to be a golfer. This is what it is. These golfers are just insane. Golfers are a very strange breed. And to wear the same outfit in both days, I mean, it's fantastic. So these are the little stories that you see on the Corn Ferry Tour, you know, and it's guys who are, again, for him to be at 32 years of age, finally winning at this level. I mean, it's a life-changing moment for him, because, as you say, it gets him that security on the tour for next year. It's a huge financial injection of money and all the confidence that brings with it too. So yeah, it's a great story. But I say, hopefully, well, who knows? Actually, I do hope it actually is the case that he retains this in future. And you know, could you imagine if he perhaps contended at Augusta one day and he had the same outfit on every single day? And the thing is, nowadays, Carlos, I mean, when you get towards a major, all the apparel brands, whether it be Adidas or whoever, Titleist, Mizuno, Ping, they all put out every week, this is what Tiger Woods will wear, this is what Ricky Fowler will wear, this is what they have, the scripting every single week. They basically dress them every single day. These guys get everything done from, they even get dressed. They even choose what they wear. That's how protected they are. So I don't know how this guy, Evan Harmelin, I don't know how you'd script him. Just the same outfit every single day, maybe different sunglasses, perhaps. I don't know. So it's a little detail that I had a good laugh at. So good for him. Fantastic victory.
Hey, he would be one of the easiest one then, because hey, just
Well,
for
that's
the
true.
same thing, don't worry. That's it.
Well, here's the thing,
We'll
Carlos.
just pick it per tournament.
Well, yeah, you could do that. But Carlos, I mean, as we all know, it can be for some of us who aren't necessarily the most physically robust individuals, like myself. It can be hard to find clothes that are comfortable. So when you do, you want to wear them all the time. So
like jeans. It's like the jeans.
Jeans. Yeah, jeans.
You use them for years.
Yes.
Same jeans.
Yeah, absolutely.
I get it. Now, I was about to ask you, because the beard, you mentioned Shane Lowry brought it back, but also Beef Johnston, I remember, he was famous for that. But, and we know Robert Rock is the hair.
Yeah.
So who was the original beard? Who you think it
Well,
was?
here's the thing, right? So this really shows I have no life whatsoever that I know this. But so Shane Lowry, when he won the Open last year, he was the first player to win a major championship with a beard since Bob Ferguson from St Andrews, who won the Open Championship back in, I think, 1882 or something like that. So he was the first major winner to have a beard in 140 years, essentially. So there you are. There's a bit of trivia for you right there. So I think
Yeah.
Bob Ferguson was the original beard, although old Tom Morris might contest that a little bit.
Yeah, Boo Wakely used to to had a very good beard. I don't know if you remember Graham DeLay. The
Yes.
lad had this ridiculous beard, but anyway, he had one. Shane Lowry, of course. Lucas Glover,
Mm-hmm.
another one. Impressive beard. The Rafael Jacqueline there and the European
Yep.
Tour, another bearded guy. So and Ryan Moore sported it for a little while. There are a few. There are a few, and the European Tour, former Ryder Cup captain Thomas Bjorn, he sported it
Yes.
also. I mean, it was a little scary, but he did. So the beard has been around for a little while. Beef Johnson, like I mentioned, there's been some bearded guys, but we'll see. Nobody like CC Top. So if I ever see
Well, no.
somebody like that, I will. I mean, I don't know. I think I'll run. But anyway.
And Carlos, it's terrible because for those who are watching on the YouTube channel, seeing the stream of us talking right now, I mean, we're talking about beards here, and we're both perfectly clean shaven. I mean, what are we talking about?
What is this?
We're
If you
letting the
just
sun
tune
down.
in, if you tune in right now, it's like, what is it that you guys want to have it like that, or what?
We're just very jealous, aren't we? We're very envious of
Yeah,
these
that's
guys.
envious of them, but no farther from the truth. Anyway, with that, let's wrap up our weekend backspin and let's start moving to the forecall. What happens this weekend? Of course, a big one. We're saving it for the practice range. That's the women's PGA Championship. That's the KPMG. But on the PGA Tour, we'll have the Shriners Hospitals for Children's Open. They're going to play it at the TPC Summerlin in Las Vegas. They're going to play for a $7 million purse. The winner will take $1.26 million. And Bryson DeChambeau will be making his first start since becoming a major champion at the U.S. Open. He won this tournament 2 years ago. Also, there's going to be the former British Open champ, Francesco Molinari, is in the field.
Mm.
First time we're going to see him since the Mexico Championship in late February. This is the first of two straight tournaments in Las Vegas. The CJ Cup moving from South Korea to Shadow Creek because of the COVID-19 pandemic is next week. Now, the field features three of the top 10 players in the world, the PGA champion Colin Morikawa and Webb Simpson joining DeChambeau. Patrick Cantlay won his first PGA Tour event in Las Vegas and lost in the playoff last year to Kevin Na. The grandson of former Masters champion Charles Coody is on the field. Parker Coody earned his spot by winning the Southern Highlands Collegiate this year. Parker and his twin brother, Pearson, reached the fourth round of the U.S. Amateur last year. They play for the Texas Longhorns. They'll be here too. Now, this tournament, Kieran, began back in 1983. Fossey Zeller won and earned $135,000, which makes it just like incredible to think that it's 10 times now. That back then was the biggest check on the PGA
Yeah.
Tour that season, including the four majors. So, very good field, Kieran. One player though that is not going to be here is Tony Finau. He tested positive for COVID-19, so he had to withdraw from.
Yes, indeed, which is obviously usually unfortunate, and obviously we hope Tony recovers quickly and doesn't have any symptoms, and he's going to feel better soon. He'll be back, back playing in time for Augusta. Obviously, he'll have to do a 2-week quarantine now, I would imagine, and obviously Augusta's only really 4 weeks away, so he has to get back to form before then. But I'm sure he will. So obviously disappointing. And it's actually the PGA Tour has been very fortunate. I think we had those early positive tests when the tour first came back, but for a long time they were managing it very well. Obviously, we saw what happened at the US Open with Scotty Scheffler, but other than that, it's been very quiet on the COVID testing of late. So it's a rare blip on the horizon. Not a surprise given how it's still going around. It's going to happen to some guys eventually, but it's a huge shame for Tony because he would have obviously been among the favourites and the main contenders this week in Vegas. And I'm disappointed that you used that stat around about the money list and how much the first prize was back in '83, because I had that on my list right now. Because
Sorry.
I saw the tweet. There's a tweet from Doug Ferguson from the AP, and he mentioned that it was in '83 the biggest first prize on the PGA Tour, indeed exceeding the majors and the Players Championship. So it was big money back in '83. So you've stolen that from me. I'm devastated. I'm heartbroken. I'm offended, and I will never, ever, ever forgive you for this. So so there we are. I'll never feel bad about taking your picks and majors in future. This is it. You've lost. I'll be picking Sergio
It
every
was
single week.
payback. It was payback. It
Yeah,
was
you got your
payback.
revenge eventually. It's fair enough. Yeah, yeah. I can take it. I can take the blow. But in terms of blows, one guy will be getting big, hitting bombs out there. Of course, will be Bryson DeChambeau. People will be fascinated to see how he's going to play after the US Open. Obviously, he's the guy that's made headlines all summer, all year. He's been the story of the year in many ways on the PGA Tour in terms of how he's changed his body, changed his game, and who knows, might even chart a future for the tour and for the players on tour. I mean, you mentioned Tony Finau. He's someone who thinks he could actually hit the ball even longer than what he does already. And I saw a thing earlier. Rory McIlroy in practice this week exceeded 190 miles an hour for ball speed hitting a drive. So he's now trying to get that extra boost, extra gear, to hit the ball like Bryson does. So they're all going to be doing this now. So when we get towards Augusta, I mean, they'll be putting up metal fences around the course and blocking fairways, and they'll putting alligators in the creek. They'll be doing everything they can, mines in the fairway. To stop these guys, because they now see this is the way they play. So, yeah, a great field here at the Shriners to see. Bryson DeChambeau is there, Matt Wolff is there, Colin Morikawa is there, and of course Sergio is there as well, and Kevin Na defends. So you think of Kevin Na, who won last year, and you have Bryson and you have Matt Wolff. I mean, Kevin Na really is the tortoise in this race with these guys, because he's not one of the long hitters, so he's going to be at a in theory a disadvantage. But when he won last year, he had the most unbelievable putting week. I think it was a record breaker on the tour in terms of footage of putts holed. It's something over 300 feet or something like that. It was outrageous the amount of putts he holed to win last year. So I think to beat these guys, the big hitters, you'll have to do something very similar to that this week. But it's certainly a very strong field, and this shows, Carlos, that the guys now, they've had the US Open, they've had a couple of weeks off. Now it's time to build up for Augusta. And the countdown towards the Masters. And I know we'll talk about it a little bit later in terms of the golf course in Augusta National, how it's looking right now. We're starting to get to that time where these players are looking at Augusta National in November. Very unique Masters this year, of course. The last chance to win a major this year. And I think, who knows, the Masters champion might very well be in this field. And the guys here will be hoping this week will be a springboard potentially have success down Magnolia Lane in a few weeks' time.
We'll see. Definitely, the players are starting to get ready and primed for the Masters in just a few weeks' time. So now let's talk about the flagship of the European Tour tournaments.
Yes, the
Yes, and
flagship.
I'm gonna let you take a lot of this. I'm just gonna mention, they're gonna play it at the Wentworth golf course. It's going to be the West, right? The West course.
Yeah.
That is in Virginia Water in England. And they're going to play for a purse of $7 million. The winner's share is 1.66. And, this was scheduled for September 10 to the 13th before the COVID-19 pandemic rearranged the European Tour schedule. Patrick Reed will be playing his first European Tour event since he missed the cut in the Saudi International on January 31st, and he leads the race to the wire. He's number 9 in the world, the highest ranked player in the field. Justin Rose is playing his first European Tour event since the season-ending DP World Tour Championship in Dubai last year. So we have 2 players that haven't been playing the European Tour for a while. Now, the winner of this tournament is guaranteed 64 world ranking points. And Justin Rose is among 8 players from England who are also in the top 50 in the world. All but Paul Casey, who is playing in Las Vegas this week, are at Wentworth. So tell us, Kieran, about this tournament this year. Tony Jacklin was the first winner of this event in '72, and the only American to win is the king, Arnold Palmer, and
Yeah.
that was in '75 when it was played at Royal St. George's. So how about the BMW PGA Championship?
Yeah, obviously an iconic fixture on the European Tour for decades now. I think particularly obviously since it has been established now at Wentworth for 40 years essentially, and is considered to be the flagship event. The European Tour headquarters is at Wentworth, very prestigious golf club, just north of London and Surrey. Lovely place, of course, with a lot of history to it. And of course, playing at this time of year is unique, but it's not necessarily unique to this golf course as such, because golf fans of a certain vintage will remember the World Match Play Championship that played for many years at Wentworth, going back to the 60s all the way through until about 10, 12 years ago, won by some of the all-time greats. They played that in October every year at Wentworth. So we have seen golf played here at this time of year in the past. So as you say, a great field. Obviously, a lot of the top English players in there. Tommy Fleetwood, of course, trying to bounce back from last week's disappointment at the Scottish Open. Lee Westwood is there too. Aaron Rai will be there. Tyrrell Hatton, Matt Fitzpatrick. So there's a lot of good names there. Justin Rose. And I think a lot of eyes will be on Patrick Reed. As you say, he is leading the race to Dubai, which seems very odd given that he's barely played a European Tour event. But that's kind of the quirk of the system. Also a quirk of this very strange year where they haven't had the same number of events as they would normally have. So this week could be really pivotal in terms of who wins the race to Dubai and becomes a European number one. Because after this week, you only have a handful of events, and the majority of those, the top players will not play in. So next week you have the Scottish Championship, then you have the Italian Open, Cyprus Open, the Cyprus Classic. And those are all low-ranking events. And then the Masters. And at the end of the year, in December, you have the Dubai World Championship. So this is the last real big event on the European Tour until Dubai. With huge prize money, Rolex Series tournament. So success here could be defining. So guys like Lee Westwood, who wants to win, to be European number one again after so many years, if he has a strong week here, he could get into pole position. Likewise, Tommy Fleetwood wants to hold on to that crown. And then also you look at somebody like Aaron Rai, who we talked about earlier, who's now in 5th place in the race to Dubai. Obviously coming off 2 really good weeks in Ireland and Scotland. If he was to have a great week here, maybe even win the event, he'd be catapulted right into contention at the summit of the race to Dubai. So there's a lot riding on this event. Obviously, it'll be a unique feel, as I said, all year in terms of events with no fans. And this event's always been kind of made by the atmosphere because the fans crowd round the course. It's a very, the property is very enclosed, an awful lot of trees. There isn't really much room between the fairways and the trees. So the fans always feel very compact along the fairways and then amongst all the tall trees, and it creates a really good visual. Big grandstands around the 18th green normally. Nothing like that this year, of course, and that's kind of the story of this season in golf when we're getting accustomed now to no spectators being there whatsoever. So that'll be a miss this week. But it is obviously one of the standout events on the European Tour every year, and indeed in the international golf calendar. And say Danny Willett won last year, which was the next stage in his renaissance after a really tough slump. So it's a golf course that divides opinion at times. The West Course, it's had many changes in the past decade or so. A little bit controversial. Some of the greens are a bit strange. Some of the hole designs are a bit not everyone's favourite. Not many people would have this as one of their favourite golf courses, but it is certainly an iconic venue. And I say the field is outstanding. So it's going to be a fascinating week ahead. So but it could be defining in terms of who actually becomes European Tour number one this year. So it's an important week for all these top contenders.
Definitely, and we'll be watching and seeing what happens there. An iconic venue, an iconic tournament. So now let's talk about the Champions Tour. This SAS Championship is going to be played at the Prestonwood Country Club. That's in Cary, North Carolina. And we have Jim Furyk. He's going to try to keep his record intact. He's going to go for his 3rd victory in as many starts since he joined the PGA Tour Champions. And if he keeps this up, it's just going to be a few years and he'll erase Hale Irwin's record if he just keeps winning. This is just amazing. He's 2 for 2. We'll see. I mean, he has one at Warwick Hills and Pebble Beach, two courses he played regularly in the PGA Tour. Mark-Carl Cavecchia returns after having the coronavirus. So Furyk and golf's most interesting men, Miguel Angel Jimenez, are the only two-time winners on the tour on the Champions Tour this season. Only four tournaments remain on their schedule. Now, players who are 50 have won 6 of the 11 events on the schedule this season. So the rookies or the young ones on the tour. And that list includes Jim Furyk, Phil Mickelson, and Ernie Els. Bernhard Langer is among the 17 players who have played in all 11 events on the schedule this year. And Langer is the only player to have gone over $1 million this year leads the Charles Schwab uh, Cup. So, Kieran, how about this tournament? And how about Jim Furyk's chances to keep winning?
Yeah, indeed. And it's funny you mentioned, obviously, as you touched on there, all those rookies on the tour doing so well this year, the huge names, the superstars, Mickelson and Els and Furyk. But yet, despite all that, who's number one in the rankings? It's that man, it's Langer. You can't knock him off. 63 years of age, he's still there. He's unstoppable. So he's still showing he's still the man to beat in so many ways. But that said, Jim Furyk, of course, it's going for a little bit of history. If he can win this week, he'll be the first player really ever in terms of the PGA Tour, the Corn Ferry Tour, the Champions Tour, to win his first three events on a particular circuit, which would be an immense achievement. And it's something that I would not be surprised if he accomplishes it. I think earlier in the year, I was on the show and we are talking about Furyk making his debut on the Senior Tour. And Fred asked me about, do we think that Furyk could actually be that next Bernhard Langer figure? Because there are many similarities between those two guys. I mean, they both play a very meticulous, very precise game. They're both extremely fit. I mean, they've never changed. Langer physically is the same as he was 40 years ago. Furyk's been the same for 30 years on the tour. They both play the game very similarly. Not long hitters, but they're just very, very steady, hard to beat, great under pressure. Again, very, very professional in every way they approach their game, both practice and also on the golf course. They don't make many mistakes. And those are the guys that tend to do very well on the circuit. So you can see Furyk having a very long and successful career on the Champions Tour. But to have the start that he's had is obviously incredible and outstanding. And if he could win this week, he would suddenly become right up there with Langer and in the Charles Schwab race, having only played 3 events, which would be astonishing. But that's what winning does. So yeah, eyes will be on him, and rightly so. So a fantastic debut year, and one that could very easily get even better for Furyk. Making a lot of money on the Champions Tour and showing he's still playing the game to a very high standard. Remember, it was only just over a year ago that Furyk finished second at the Players' Championship to Rory McIlroy. So he can still play to an extremely high level. And it's a great boost for the Champions Tour. I mean, having Mickelson making the odd appearance, as he will, in the coming years, and then Furyk there too, and Els. I mean, it's an exciting time for the over 50 circuit. But as we say, Langer is still that guy at the top, and he's playing this week too, so he'll be hoping to reassert his status as being the man to beat. It wouldn't surprise me if he accomplishes that. Ernie Els obviously is playing very well too. He's someone who wants to get more confidence. Confidence, I think, was lacking a little bit towards the end in his late 40s on the regular tour. A lot of missed cuts, struggling for form. I think playing on the Champions Tour, there's no pressure in terms of making cuts. You can just freewheel it a little bit, and I think he's now enjoying that environment. There is no Miguel Angel Jimenez, unfortunately. He's playing at Wentworth this week. He played the Scottish Open last week too, where he played, unfortunately, very poorly by his usually extremely good standards. So, yeah, I think this week, as you mentioned, only 4 events to go, Carlos, in the Champions Tour. That race for the Charles Schwab Cup is now hotting up. And if Jim Furyk can win this week and make history by doing that, he will have elevated and catapulted himself right into that race for the season-long title, potentially usurping Langer and Els. So I think when we get towards the end of this season, the remainder of the season of the Champions Tour, I think the race for the Charles Schwab Cup is going to be fascinating. And I say Jim Furyk might have a very big say in who ultimately becomes number 1. If he can win this week, then he is right in contention, and I wouldn't put it past him.
Oh, definitely. And I wouldn't put it past Bernhard Langer either. He
Absolutely not.
continues to be there. So that makes it a very interesting Okay, the one that has been there forever for the last 10 years, or the new and uppercomer Jim Furyk, who's going to take
And
the cup
Carlos,
this
and
year.
Langer has won this event twice in the past as well. So he has a very good record here at Prestonwood. So again, he's someone who you would expect to see in contention going into the weekend. So if we could have potentially a Furyk and Langer tussle on Sunday, I think that would be a fascinating contrast in terms of, as you say, the new guy and the older guy. That's the one thing about being on the Champions Tour. They turn 50 and suddenly they're rookies again, the young guy again. And
Hmm.
so many players become rejuvenated by that prospect. So, and certainly Jim Furyk has become the latest example of that. And at the moment, he's one of the best examples of a guy who's come on the Champions Tour and has just grasped the opportunity with both hands.
And that's something that the Champions Tour desperately needs, is
Mm-hmm.
that type of rivalry or storylines to come up, and those good name players coming from the PGA Tour that are just recently 50 to come on and promote it and be there for them. But anyway, let's move on to the final one that we're going to preview for you this weekend, and that is on the Corn Ferry Tour. And it seems incredible that we have finally reached the final event of the 2020 portion of the 2021 wraparound season on the Corn Ferry Tour. As you know, now they're going to be playing both seasons as one because of the COVID-19. And the Orange County National Championship, presented by 939, is a new addition to the schedule that was added after the impact of the COVID-19. So they're going to be contesting it at the Panther Lake Course, that is in Winter Garden, Florida. Facilities just about 25 minutes outside of Orlando. And, you know, this week, all the top players are going to be there. All eyes are on Jared Wolf and of course on Davis Riley, because those are the two players that are looking for the immediate promotion. They're the two-time winners this year, and of course, Fear the Beard there. Evan Harmeling is going to be there. Lexi Thompson's uh, brother Curtis is going to be there. The big hitting Taylor Pendrith is going to be there. But the player that I keep saying, watch out, he's still playing really well, and he just finished T10 in Georgia last week. Brandon Wu, fourth top 10 result in just 8 events in the Corn Ferries this season. When he gets going, I mean, he's as good as anyone on tour. And right now he's second in the scoring average, and will need to fire 4 low ones to stay in contention, because uh, this tournament and this course, Kieran, uh, aims for high scoring here. For low scoring,
Yes,
I'm sorry, low scoring.
yes, and the low scoring. Yeah, yes, a fast start will be required from all these players to do well this week. And obviously, I think one of the main takeaways of this year in terms of the COVID crisis and how the impact that's had on so many players is that it has indeed, for a lot of these guys, halted their chance of progression onto the PGA Tour for this year. Fewer opportunities, obviously, to get onto the main tour at the end of this season, and that's obviously deeply unfortunate for a lot of these players who have kind of lost a year potentially in their development and their progression. But of course, they're hoping to end the season strongly and then build into next season, where hopefully we'll get back to a sense of normality and those regular pathways onto the PGA Tour will be restored. So more guys can get into contention to play in the final events and try and qualify for the PGA Tour. And so I'm looking out for a lot of these names. As you mentioned there, Brandon Wu, who I first really came into contact with him when I saw him play at the Fairmont St Andrews last year when he qualified for the Open Championship. He just blew the field away. He was astonishing the way he played there. And you watched him play and you felt this guy, he's just on another level compared to so many of these players you see. And I think it's funny because when we saw him play so well, at the time people might have felt he could have been the next, Morikawa or Wolf or Hovland. He could have been one of those guys who would instantly have an impact on the tour. But the trouble is you have to get on the tour to have that impact. But he's someone who I think is definitely a name to watch out for in the future, and could very well have a triumph here this week. But running through the field, some of the other names I've noticed are in the field. You have kind of names from the past, like Eric Compton is there. He's still playing golf to a good standard. Alex Cheka, Robert Garrigus, John Sendon, one of the best ball strikers in golf for many years, sitting on the PGA Tour. And as well, talking of beards, Carlos, you have Ollie Schneiderjans, who's got one of the modest little goatee beard going on there, and one of the best hairs. Actually, he combines the Robert Rock. He has the Robert Rock and the Evan Hamlin as well. He has that, the beard and the hair. So Yeah, to be fair, I think that the big beard's better than the little goatee beard. I think the goatee beard's just trying to be too refined. You have to kind of let it grow out, and I think he's not quite got that yet. So yeah, the final event for the the Corn Ferry Tour. I keep saying web.com. I'll never get that right. But yeah, Corn Ferry Tour for this season. And the thing is, Carlos, when I do get it right, they'll change the sponsor again. I'll have to start again. It's typical. But yeah, it's been a very strange season for all these guys. But as we say, there's still money up for grabs, still an opportunity to take. As we saw last week, players can come from nowhere and grasp their opportunity, and there's a chance for someone to do that this week, and hopefully, build towards a fresh season next year, where we'll see those, again, as I said, those established pathways return, and greater opportunities for more players to get onto the PGA Tour from here, and to fulfill their potential. But I think this past year, in so many ways, has just halted progress for so many people in all walks of life, and these guys on tour are no exception to that.
All right, and with that, we wrap up our forecall or the preview for this weekend's action. Now let's move on right away to the Par 5 news, where we pick 5 pieces of news worthy of talking about it. And the first one is really taking a lot of talk. That's because the Ladies European Tour announced 2 new events to be held in Saudi Arabia later this year for a total of $1.5 million in prize funds, marking the first professional female golf tournaments ever staged in Saudi Arabia. Now, the $1 million Aramco Saudi Ladies International, that will take place November 12th to the 15th, and the 500,000 Saudi Ladies Team International will be held the next week. Both events will take place at the Royal Greens Golf Club on the Red Sea coast near Jeddah. In the team competition, professional players will partner with amateurs. Now, the original 72-hole event was scheduled to take place in March of this year, but was moved due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, the Aramco Saudi Ladies International will be the third highest paying event on the LET schedule, behind the Scottish Open and the AIG Women's British Open. Kieran, Saudi Arabia remains one of the most gender segregated countries in the world. However, some of the country's strict laws have recently come under reform, and that may be the reason why, according to the Reuters report late last year, restaurants no longer require separate entrances for women's and families, and one solely for men. So they seem to be making some changes. They're still not to the standard that is expected from the international community.
Yeah.
And I think that most of the issues here with this, and Amnesty International has blasted this because they see it as just a marketing stunt, and they're not doing anything. What's your take on this? And then I'll just give a closing remark on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think people, obviously, the LET is desperate for any sort of investment, desperate to have any events. The LET, as an organisation, ultimately has, they are required to deliver their members and their players opportunities to play and earn money. That's what they're there for. And unfortunately, in some cases, people don't always like where that money comes from, and that's case in all sports, and the Saudi Arabian example is the most extreme example because they've become very aggressive in all sports. I mean, we've seen a variety of events been hosted in the country in recent years. We've seen a lot of boxing matches take place there. There was a tennis exhibition that was there last year. It was very controversial. You mentioned the event earlier, Carlson. We've seen also the Saudi International and European Tour in the past 2 years as well. It's controversial. We've even seen things like professional wrestling take part in Saudi Arabia too. So they've been trying to use sport to change their image and to draw eyes on their nation in a different way than what normally would be, to showcase the country how they want to present it. Now, Amnesty International and organizations like that would argue that the image that the Saudi Arabian government through sport wants to present is not the reality. And as the Amnesty International director, Kate Allen, said, and it's quoted in the Guardian newspaper, she said, and I quote, with leading Saudi women's rights activists currently languishing behind bars, is an unmistakable irony to the spectacle of Saudi Arabia throwing open its heavily watered greens to the world's leading golfers like this. Under the Crown Prince, Saudi Arabia has embarked on a major sports washing drive, attempting to use the glamour and prestige of big money sporting events as a PR tool to distract from its abysmal human rights record. Now, I think that what people might have raised their eyebrows at the LET's announcement when they saw the words landmark moment, which they used in their press release. Now, that's obviously they're just trying to follow the party line in terms of this is what Saudi Arabia wants to project. This is a landmark thing. It's going to be, it's a new era for that nation, for that country, and for the tour as well. But it's one that's difficult for some people to swallow. And of course, earlier in the year, Carlos, one of the big stories we saw in golf was the Premier Golf League, which we've almost forgotten about now, but it's still lurking in the background. It hasn't entirely gone away. And it was dismissed by many people, including Rory McIlroy and Brooks Koepka, and of course many people follow the game. It was dismissed for having Saudi government money behind it. But I say that concept hasn't gone entirely away, and that story I don't think is entirely dead. So it's a tough one. I'd say for the LET, there are only 12 events on schedule this year. And as you said earlier, the only events that can come anywhere near the prize money here were the Scottish Open and the Women's Open, which of course ultimately are both LPGA Tour events, ultimately. So for the LET, having events is tough. Having events with decent prize money is even harder. And they have ticked both of those boxes this week. But in terms of PR, in terms of the image and the way it looks, it's not going to draw many fans to the LET. So while it's a short-term gain in terms of the players and earning money and an opportunity for them to play, it's not an event, or either event. They're not ones that will draw many viewers, because I think people just get turned off by Saudi Arabia being involved in anything. And this is another example of the Saudi government using their riches to invest in sport, try and project a new image for themselves. And people don't like to see their game being used as a toy, if you like, which I think this is another example of. But as I say, the players will go there, big prize money, they won't complain about it. But I think for those who follow the game, it makes us feel uneasy. If this is going to be the future, where does it end? And given the financial fallout we're going to see for years from the COVID crisis, people will be looking for any opportunity to have events. Money will be even harder to get hold of. Sponsors will be even harder to secure. So if the Saudi Arabian government has an open checkbook, people might be trying to, various different sports and various different tours might start looking for that money more so than what they've already been doing recently.
I was having this, not discussion or argument, just talking with somebody else yesterday about this report. And the way I see it, because I remember how Phil Mickelson got a lot of grief because he really came under fire by skipping the Waste Management Phoenix Open this year to play in the European Tour's Saudi stop. That, by the way, Graham McDowell won it. Last year it was Dustin Johnson who won the first time, and they got a lot of everybody that has gone there has come under fire because of that. My argument then and here now remains the same. I know they haven't changed, but you have to somehow act. And the only way that you can do it is just by taking matters in your own hands. And if you saw what happened last year and what happened this year as well with the guys, they went to schools, they went to different places to promote this in there. Yeah. So you're starting to see different things from their government. Even small changes, anywhere that you see them, small changes lead to bigger changes. But if you don't go there and bring out and try to force the change, it'll never happen. Because just by boycotting this and now I'm not going to go there, and I respect Everybody has not gone there, like Tiger and Rory, and even Megan McLaren said
Yeah.
that she wasn't going to go because she believes, and she said rightfully, I'm not going to impose this to anyone. It's a personal decision, and it's a personal decision again. But again, that same way, I'm like, I would go just to act on it because I believe there should be a change and I would demand on it. That's why I'm going. I'm going to try to see if that happens. But if you don't go and you don't do it and just don't do anything, they will just keep doing the same thing. It's not only about protesting about anything. Yes, that's one part of it, but you also have to take matters in your own hands. And what a better way to go there and show. So one thing that I'm looking forward in these two events, those 2 weeks, is what are they going to do with the women when they go there? Will
Mm.
you just see them separated from any activities? Will they actually promote those events and make them part of like they did with the guys, to go out there and talk maybe to the girls, to the young girls? Hey, this is what you can do. This is what you can become in the future. What are they really going to do? Because then we will really know if what they're doing is tongue in cheek or really taking action on there. So I see it the other way. I think we have to wait and see. But yes, we have to remain critical, but also we have to act. That's just my way of thinking, Kieran.
Yeah, I mean, it's a complex subject, and I mean, I think there've been previous situations that are similar to this. We go back to the 1970s and the 1980s during the apartheid era in South Africa. It was indeed very frowned upon for any sports people to go to South Africa and take part in golf. Or, I mean, there were all different sports there. There was a real, you say that people were criticised for going there and earning money from sponsors in South Africa or the government there, and you know, promoting what was happening in South Africa in some way. Even my fear with these things is that the players and those involved become just tools of governments and organizations and corporations. Just in the end, the players are the product here, and I'm sure they will use the LET players in that fashion and try and get them in schools and try and get the good photo shoots and tell that story. It's one thing telling the story, and this is where people will criticize Saudi Arabian government, is they're trying to tell the story, but is the reality, when the cameras aren't there, what are they actually doing? So it's one thing to put on a good show when people are watching, but when the tour's gone, when we aren't paying attention, what are they actually doing when the cameras aren't there? And I think that is always the fear with these things, and that's what Amnesty International is talking about when they say it's sports washing. It's just basically using sport as a vehicle to distract you from the reality. So in the end, the LET in this case, and indeed it is for the European Tour as well, the tour and the players, they are the product. The Saudi Arabian government is buying that product to use those players, to use those tours, to use that platform to present an image of itself. Now, whether you think that's an image that's genuine or not, and what that means in terms of lasting change to the regular people in Saudi Arabia, which ultimately are kind of forgotten about in these scenarios where we forget that there's millions of people who live in Saudi Arabia who obviously, like anyone else, want to have a better life and want freedoms and all the rest of it. Will this make that more likely for them to happen in future? Who knows? But it's just a difficult one for sport, because I say the money is there from Saudi Arabia and they're investing heavily in various different ventures. And I say, given how difficult the financial situation will look in the coming years for all sports in the midst of the pandemic, then I think we'll see Saudi Arabia become even more aggressive. And without much alternatives, we might see more sports and more tours start to embrace that. What that means going forward, I think we'll have to wait and see. But it's, I don't want to criticise the players who go and play in this event. I think in the end, the players need to earn money. This is a chance for them to do so. I think the criticism of guys like Dustin Johnson from the past was they don't need the money. So why are they going? Why are they going for the big appearance fee and all the rest of it? So I think that was the criticism of them and Phil Mickelson, particularly this year. The LET players don't have tens of millions in the bank. They need to grasp any chance they can to play. So I would never criticise any LET player. for going to this event. I personally wouldn't do it, but I don't play on tour. Playing golf isn't my way to earn money. It is for them, so I'm not going to criticise anybody for taking that opportunity. But I think I would just say to them to be careful that they don't participate in PR events that are just for show and not for reality. And if they're in that situation when in the longer term it makes them look bad for having a willing participant in the show, if the change that we all hope will happen there doesn't actually occur in the years to come. So it's a complex subject, one that we can debate about forever, and one that we will debate about forever. But as I say, it's for these players, it's a chance to earn some decent money. But for those of us who perhaps look at the bigger picture, it's a little bit more murky, I think.
All right. We'll see how it goes, and definitely we have different opinions, but that's how it is right now. In that, I still think we'll let the future decide. Let's see how they go, and we'll definitely be keeping an eye. I'm not saying that everything is going to be perfect, but you know, just like you're saying, I think if you participate and then you actually see if they follow that up, then definitely there's a change that started. But we don't know unless we are part of that change. But anyway, let's move on to the LPGA, where there's changes coming to the 2020 CME Tour Group Tour Championship. The LPGA announced that it will have a few adjustments to the 2020 format. The final event for the 2020 LPGA Tour season now will have 70 players versus the traditional 60 that they had in the race to the CME Globe point standings, along with now having, and this is something that we talked about, 2 sponsor exemptions. 72, the whole tournament will have no cut, purse of $3 million, and the winner will receive $1.1 million, which is the highest first place check on the LPGA Tour. Now, Kieran, this comes we had Michael Wan earlier in the show interviewed, and he had a lot of things that he had to readjust. But it's good to see that they added 10 players more than the traditional one, and giving them, because he was, the toughest thing is try to find ways for the players to earn the money they haven't been able to earn so far this year. So by adding these 10 players, you're adding 10 players with more chance to try to earn more money. Not only that, but try to earn the biggest prize on the whole year. So good changes, and I think it's very welcome.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it is very welcome. As I say, I think given the nature of this year and how heavily affected the LPGA Tour schedule was for months on end throughout the summer, the only option was to give more players a chance to compete and to earn potentially, I say, a genuine life-changing sum of money, which the prize here is, and it's a huge sum of money. It's beyond anything else on the LPGA Tour. But also, I think there's a balance to be found as well, where the point of this event is to reward the players who have played the best throughout the year. And you could argue, well, you should have 120 players in the field and give everybody on the tour a chance to earn big money. But at the same time, you want to ensure that the players who have played their best competitively throughout the season, even though it's been a heavily truncated season and reduced schedule, the players who have still played the best consistently will get the reward of having competed in this exclusive event. So I think they've found the right balance of widening the field slightly, but also ensuring that the players who have done the best get the reward of actually being part of this event and having that opportunity to earn more money. And obviously for the LPGA Tour, as has been for all tours, having to reimagine the schedule this year has been a huge logistical challenge. But it's quite a lot to be excited about for followers of the LPGA Tour and indeed the players in the coming weeks. Obviously, we're going to talk about the Women's PGA Championship, and we have 5 events, including that, ahead of the CME Globe in December, just before Christmas. We also have the US Women's Open a week before that in December as well. So, it's been an extraordinary year, Carlos, but there are certainly some opportunities here on the LPGA Tour for players in America to earn some decent money, to achieve success before the end of the year. And I think Mike Wan has navigated these very, very difficult waters in, I think, a very good fashion this year.
Kieran, The Masters just about a month ago, a month from now. But I'm worried about the preparation. I mean, it's going to be in the fall. I'm worried about the course condition. Are you worried about it? What do you think about the preparation? Have you heard anything? Is it working well? How about Augusta National?
Well, it's funny, Carlos, because I think last week on social media, it kind of blew up a little bit when we saw images that were taken from overhead by Eureka Earth. And these are incredible images of Augusta National taken in late September, which they showcased Augusta as being overseeded and brown. The fairways were all brown. The bunkers were covered with these little sheets of plastic. It looked like blue plastic. I initially thought they made them water hazards, which would be quite a unique look. Perhaps it's one way to stop the shamble, make all the bunkers water hazards, and make all the water hazards bunkers, perhaps. Maybe they've done that. They could do that if they wanted to. They can do anything. So it looked very different. The golf course was unrecognisable to how we see it normally in April, when it's obviously beautifully green and immaculately presented. It looked very rugged and rough, and it didn't look like Augusta. But those who kind of know, and I've seen this before, in previous years we have seen these overhead images of Augusta. And for those who do realise that the Augusta National is closed for the entirety of summer. They play from October through to May, and then the golf course is closed all summer. It goes into recovery mode. Obviously, it's searingly hot in Georgia at that time of year. Not really ideal for growth and maintaining a golf course, particularly when you have a major championship in the spring. So every year Augusta does look like this, where it's brown and it looks very rugged, and it looks like a British links course in a summer when it's dry and hot. It looks incredibly different to what it normally does. But just like magic, Carlos, that was last week. But then this week, Eureka Earth went back with some more shots from the air. And lo and behold, Augusta National was immaculately green again. They've got the paintbrush out and they were just painting the fairways and they were getting it back to normal. And they're just toying with us, Carlos. They thought, yeah, everyone thinks this golf course won't be ready, and we'll show them. So a week later, the golf course was suddenly back to looking close to normal. There are some little imperfections here or there. There's clearly been some damage to the bank on the 12th at Race Creek. It looks like Race Creek's been, high water level there, flooded part of the golf course. Obviously, we've had some very extreme weather of late. A lot of hurricanes and so on affecting that part of the United States. So we've had some impact of that. But the golf course, as I say, we're going to see the golf course how the members see it. And the golf course typically opens in October, and this year it's going to open for play on October 12th, so just next week. And this is what the members will see. So in November, we're imagining this fall Augusta with the brown leaves and the red leaves and how it's all going to look. And the golf course, I think, will look pristine as always. Maybe the colours and the trees will be slightly different, but somehow these guys, it's almost like Augusta National have like a CGI computer, and they can make it look however they want. And a bit like your background behind you tonight, Carlos. That's what it's like. They can do what they like. So it'll be. But the thing is, every year Augusta always comes up with something new, Carlos. And they have a new building or a new road, a new tree, a new course feature. There's always something they do. And because it's such a closed shop, we don't really see it apart from 1 week of the year. Everyone looks for little hints for things that have changed. But ultimately, we'll only really see it in November. But it'll be a very unique week. Obviously, Augusta this year in the fall, completely different to normal, once in a lifetime thing, hopefully. That'll be, and we'll see how it goes. But I think the golf course, the alarmists don't need to panic. Augusta will look, I think, quite spectacular in November, just as it does in April. In fact, it might even look virtually the same. You won't be able to tell a difference apart from perhaps the extra layers that the players will be wearing in the cool weather. I don't know, but I'm sure it'll be nice regardless.
You just said what I was going to say about it. I think Augusta National went there and talked to Guillaume Rochon, Greg Butler, and Dominic Dubois. If you don't know who those three are, those were who accepted the Oscar for visual effects for the film 1917 at the Oscars this year. So
Oh,
that's
yes.
what I think they did, because I don't know how in 1 week you can make that change so drastic, other than just visual effects. So that's the only way that I can explain that. I don't know. But anyway, we'll see in just a month, less than a month, I guess, because we'll see practice rounds and all that before that. We'll see how it is. Anyway, I feel really bad about this next piece of news that we have to talk, because really Fred should be the one talking about it, because he's the only one that can tell us if it's really true.
Oh,
An international research study backed by the R&A found the new evidence to suggest that golf can provide significant health benefit to older participants. Sorry, Fred. In the form of
very old
improved,
participants. Yeah.
exactly, in the form of improved muscle and strength and balance. Muscle strength and balance exercises form an important part of the World Health Organization recommended guidelines. Now, again, I don't know, because I'm not at that age yet. I still have a long way to go. You are not even close. So I don't know why we're talking about this. We
Why am I
cannot
even
even.
here? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Kieran, tell me. I can't talk for this. I'll just have to take it by word that that is true what they're saying in that study.
Yes, absolutely. And see, it was a guy called Raul Valdez, who's 70 years old from California. He had never really played golf before, a few shots down the range in the past. So he took part in this study. We was for 2 years, closely followed by Professor Maria Stokes, who's from the University of Southampton, and Dr. George Salem from the University of Southern California, USC. And they studied this gentleman, to see the benefit of playing golf, learning to play, the physical benefits, the mental health benefits, and the general well-being benefits. Could it improve his flexibility, his strength, his physical side of his life, also his mental health? And it turned out that it suggests that golf is indeed highly beneficial for older people in terms of improved muscle strength and improving their balance. And this isn't really a huge surprise, Carlos, because there have been many studies done in the past about golf's benefits, not just for older people, but for really anybody, especially as you get older, in terms of golf, getting out there, it's fresh air, it's exercise. If you're walking, you walk several miles around. It's great for your mental health because you're out there, activity, being active, being mentally engaged, also potentially being social with other people as well. And we've seen various studies about improved cardiovascular health, improved mental health, reduction in things like strokes and heart attacks and some forms of cancer, improving weight and general well-being. So there's many benefits to golf for people of all ages. And I think at this time in particular, Carlos, when we look at the impact of the pandemic, and particularly for those people who were locked down for a significant period in this year in various parts of the world, who weren't able to get out and enjoy regular activity and maybe exercise and maybe see people that they would normally do, golf has been a great outlet for that. And the website I work for, golfshake.com, we surveyed golfers this year on this, Carlos, to really understand just how important golf is in terms of keeping active and the health benefits. So, 75% of golfers who responded to the survey said that golf was very or extremely important to them for physical activity. So, golf, you walk potentially 5 miles. Some people carry their clubs. So it's great. It results in terms of reducing risk of a variety of health conditions. But also you break it down by age. So 82% of those golfers aged 65 or over said it was extremely important to them in terms of their physical fitness was playing golf. It's a huge number. It's high for all ages, but the older golfers, for them, it's very important in terms of keeping active, for social interaction, general well-being, improved mental health, being out in the outdoors, fresh air, hopefully getting the sunshine hitting their face and so on. All these things. So golf is a great sport, potentially a sport for a lifetime. From the youngest to the oldest, and it has many benefits if people play it regularly. And now we have the evidence to further back that up. And I think look at what we have now is an aging population in many parts of the world. People are living longer, which is obviously a very good thing. But how do we keep those people active and healthy for longer? And golf has been is a fantastic activity for doing so. And even for younger people, even for young pups like us, Carlos, it's good for us too to get out there and play golf. And even though I have obviously a wonderfully youthful and virile exterior, I do have chronic health conditions. I do have arthritis, which is typically an older person's condition. So golf's important for me in terms of getting myself active and keep moving as well. So golf is good for you if you don't take it too seriously. If you take it too seriously, this game can cause some mental strain and ire. But if you have a sense of humor, if you embrace it, you have fun, and there's a reason why golf is a game for a lifetime. And I think for anyone it's beneficial, but certainly for older people, it's a game that has many benefits, as I'm sure Fred could demonstrate many times to us, because Fred plays more golf than just about anybody else, and he enjoys it, he loves it, he plays everywhere. I mean, Fred's very well travelled. It's basically Fred and Gary Player are the two most travelled golfers of all time. Although Fred tends to stick to the same two states, but he does play an awful lot, and there's a reason for that, because it's good for you, and this evidence further underlines that golf is highly beneficial.
I'm the same age as Paul Lawrie, and Paul Lawrie has done about everything that you can do on the European Tour. 8 wins, 67 top 10 finishes, 396 cuts made. He has earned over 12.7 million euros. Has played twice in the Ryder Cup. He won the 1999 Open. Even had a tournament named after him for 3 years.
Yeah.
But now he's calling it a career on the old world circuit. At this week's past weekend's Scottish Open, it meant his 620th appearance and last in a regular season event, because he's calling it a career on the tour. Of course, there should be, Kieran, some senior golf in his future. He's currently the Scottish Senior Open title holder, and will likely play a few more times in the Open before his exemption runs out in 9 years. But for now, regular golf is soon to be in his rearview mirror. And I couldn't think about anybody better than you to talk about Paul Lawrie and his career and, what is up next for him.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a great surprise. I mean, he hasn't had many great results in the European Tour in the past few years. He hasn't had a top 10, I think, in 4 years. So, and he obviously had played on the European Senior Tour last season. As you say, he won there in Scotland, actually not far from the Renaissance Club, just across the road, really, at Craigie Law, which is in the same part of the country. So it wasn't a great surprise that he would call it a day in the Scottish Open, obviously very timely, being his home championship. But yeah, it's a sad event in many ways, because it brings down the curtain on what is actually, I think, one of the most inspiring careers in golf, and in many ways an underrated career by so many people. I mean, Paul Lawrie turned professional when he was 17 and he had a 5 handicap. He thought he would simply be a club pro at that point. Didn't think he'd ever play a European Tour event. Eventually, he worked his way up. He qualified for the European Tour. He won there. He established himself in that tour. And as you say, Carlos, he won the Open Championship in 1999 in one of the most dramatic and extraordinary weeks we've ever seen in a major. One of the toughest golf courses at Carnoustie. Jean van de Velde having that dramatic collapse in the last hole. And Lawrie came back from 10 shots in that final round to win the Claret Jug just an hour or so from his hometown. It was a remarkable story. He had an unbelievable final round that day, shot 67. He won the playoff easily, hit an amazing shot with 4-iron onto the last hole at Carnoustie, which Jack Nicklaus said to him soon after is one of the best shots that Jack had ever seen. It was a remarkable victory, one that was overshadowed unfairly by what Van de Velde, what happened to him on the last hole. But Lawrie took his opportunity and won his home championship, the Open Championship, in the most amazing fashion. And as you see, Carlos, twice a Ryder Cup player. He rolled back the years in 2012 to make the team at 43. and he played a vital role for Europe that week in that truly extraordinary comeback win at Medina. He beat Brant Snedeker in the singles. So Laurie's been a fantastic player who's got the most out of his talent through the years, hard worker, had ups and downs, but had so many great highlights in there. But I think actually what he's done beyond his career will be more meaningful. His golf centre and his foundation has introduced thousands of kids to golf. He runs a management company that supports many of the Scottish professionals on the tour. And this year, in the face of the pandemic, he established the Tartan Pro Tour, which gave Scottish professionals and amateurs somewhere to compete during the pandemic and the lockdown period. So he put his name to that and backed it up. And he's now an ambassador for the newly rebranded Legends Tour, which is what the European Senior Tour is going to become next year. He'll hopefully have some success there next season. And as you say, Carlos, hopefully he hasn't committed to playing in the Open again in the future, but he has that exemption. And I think, given his achievements and given his career, he deserves to actually have that farewell appearance in front of a crowd with some fans there. And maybe at St Andrews in 2 years' time, that could be appropriate. Crossing the bridge and having the crowds there. That would be a nice way to finish. He deserves that farewell. Fantastic career, one of the truly good guys, and his legacy in golf is hugely significant for a variety of reasons. Fantastic player, incredible career, but what he's done beyond that for so many people in golf, he's given so much back. And I say it's a career that I think people do underrate. But I think when you look at what he's done, what he's achieved, and how he conducts himself, you realise that he's had one of the most inspiring careers that we've seen in European golf for a long time, I think.
Yeah, and it's he was humble as well. When
Yes.
he was talking about his achievements, he said, "Well, it was average golf at best."
Yeah. Well, I think you see
So
an average golfer who did great things. I think he
that's
got the
right.
most out of his ability, and that's
That's right.
the best compliment you can say for anybody. He hit 600 balls a day. He worked so hard. That's why his back is in a bad state now, because he worked so hard. He had to get the most out of his talent. He was a grinder, and he had a fantastic short game. And that's what. And again, he will go down in history as an Open champion, as a Scotsman winning in Scotland. The first time that happened in decades. And I say that's a part of history. He will always be on that claret jug. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much to his story that if people look into it, they realise that he is truly one of the most underrated figures in European golf in the past 20, 30 years, easily.
Definitely. And with that, we wrap up our Par 5 news. And now let's go to the practice range, the topic of the week. And that has to be the third and last major of the year on the LPGA Tour, following the Women's British Open, won by Sophia Popov, and Miriam Lee winning the A&A Inspiration. Mel Reid and Georgia Hall are the last two winners on tour. It's the first time that English women have won consecutive starts on the LPGA Tour since Trish Johnson and Caroline Pierce in 1996. So would that bode as a great omen to see if they continue that or another English woman will win on this major? We don't know. That's what we're going to talk about. The PGA of America began operating this major in 2015. This is the sixth venue in 6 years. Aeronymous first hosted a major in 1962 when Gary Player won the PGA Tour, the PGA Championship. Most recently, it hosted the BMW Championship in the PGA Tour postseason, won by Keegan Bradley in a playoff. Now, Jin Young Ko, the world's #1 player in the world, she's the only player from the top 10 who is not in the field. She still has not played on the LPGA Tour event all year. She has been riding out the COVID-19 pandemic back at home in South Korea. We respect that. Miriam's Lee victory in the A&A Inspiration last month was the 10th consecutive year a South Korean has won a major. Inbee Park will try to match Mickey Wright's record of 4 women's PGA Championship titles. She won it 3 times in a row. Now, Mel Reid, of course, we talked about her. She last week became the 4th player in her 30s to win in the LPGA Tour this season. So this is like a different trend we can say that we have seen in this season. More veterans. Would it be because, the experience is what has been driving on more and more of the players this season on the pandemic shortened season, the interruptions, what it is. We're going to be talking a little bit about that as well. But Kieran, Hannah Green last year put on a putting short game masterclass to win this event. She's the defending champion. She did it at the Hazeltine National last year. I mean, she had a clutch up, up and down out of a greenside bunker in the final hole. That was it there. There's a lot of storylines that I want to cover, but what's your take, original take here on the KPMG Women's PGA Championship?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tremendous event, Carlos, because this golf course is a truly major standard venue. You know, Aronimik, as you say, Gary Player won here back in the day. We've also seen the PGA Tour come here several times in the past decade or so. And indeed, the PGA, the men's PGA Championship will come back here in 2026. So it's a proper golf course, an original Donald Ross design. It was revamped around 2 decades ago to modernize it for the contemporary player. It's a really tough venue, one that's fitting at championship of this stature. And I think, one of the great things about when the PGA of America took over the women's PGA, made it into this new, rebranded it. Part of that was take it to, fantastic major standard venues and try and elevate it in that respect. I think they've done that. I think this week here will be a perfect example of what they've done. This is going to be a really tremendous challenge for these players. And as we've touched on before, I mean, there's so many players who are coming into here looking for a major victory. But we've also had two majors relatively recently, Women's Open and indeed the R&A Inspiration, where we saw two probably surprise winners. Obviously, Sophia Popov came from absolutely nowhere, whereas in that final day at the R&A Inspiration, Miriam Lee went under the radar because all eyes were on Nelly Korda and Brooke Henderson. Of course, she surprised them with an amazing short game masterclass to chip in 3 times and beat them in the playoff. And that win was somewhat, unfortunately, overshadowed by the wall gate that happened that week around which we discussed in the show several weeks ago. But this week there'll be no quirks, there'll be no things like that here. This is going to be a real classic major style test. And I think obviously the world number one is not here, which is a great shame. But so many of the great contenders are, and against a chance to win a major. And there's so many players who obviously have seen their careers curtailed this year. They haven't won this season. So many of the big names haven't won this year. They could make up for that by winning at the PGA Championship. It wouldn't surprise me. But as we've seen, with the likes of Sophia Popov winning the Women's Open, these majors. I mean, even Hannah Green last year. Hannah Green, by the way, who has a Scottish mother, so I'm claiming that one. She's one of us, Carlos. She's one of us. She's not Australian, really. So it's one of those things where these majors always present an opportunity, and we'll talk about the contenders, Carlos. But I think there's an awful lot of players here who are looking for some kind of redemption, and I would actually start with two players that I've mentioned already, Nelly Korda and Brooke Henderson, who came so close to winning at the R&A. I think that was a hugely disappointing finish for both of those players. And I think this week they'll both be looking to make up for that. And indeed, in the case of Nelly, winning a major for the first time. So I think there's a lot of players here who have an extra motivation beyond just winning a major. It's a chance to do something special in this most unique and extraordinary of years. And I think we're going to see one of these favourites, one of these main contenders, lift the trophy. I think this is a tough golf course that will identify the best players in the world.
Most definitely. And talking about the players, I mentioned that only Ying Yong Ko is the one on the top 10 that is not playing.
Yeah.
But all the others are right here. And Daniel Kang is right now leading the CME list and was playing great at the restart. She had like a mini slump based on what she was doing, but hasn't shared 11 and 12 place finishes in her last two. And she slipped down to number 3 in the world. She was just about to challenge Ying Yong Ko for being the world number 1. But now Nelly Korda has climbed back. would we see? Is this another tournament, another major where we will see a first-time winner on it, or will we see some other veteran player? I was talking about the amount of players in their 30s, so it's been a lot of veterans players winning this year. We even seen the resurgence of Stacy Lewis
Yeah.
this year. So who should we think is going to win this time? Would it be a first-time winner? Uh, Also, which player do you think needs most of victory to save their season here?
Well, that's an interesting question. In terms of saving their season, I think I would. It's not really saving their season because they're both fantastic players, but I do think I mentioned Henderson and Nelly Corda. I think both of them, given what happened at the ANA and the disappointment of that, I think a win here would be a long way to making up for that loss. But actually, talking about Cordas, I mean Jessica Corda has really fallen, into the shadow of her younger sister this past year or so. Jessica was obviously she was the flag bearer for America, and now Nelly's really taken that mantle. So, and Jessica has shown a little bit of form of late, decent finish last weekend. She missed a cut at the ANA Inspiration, so she could do with a big week, try and restore her confidence and get herself back up the world ranking. She's fallen significantly down from where she was before. But in terms of the older players, I see you look at Inbee Park, obviously being a veteran player nowadays, always capable, always dangerous, always has that possibility of winning. But even players who are veterans, they aren't necessarily old. I mean, I was looking at the players earlier, and I was looking at Lydia Ko, who is only 23. I still think, how is that even possible? She's been around for so long and achieved so much when she was a teenager. You forget how young she still is, and she's shown some form of late too. And she had a good finish at the NA Inspiration, finished top 10 there. Good finish in Scotland at the Royal Troon. Been ticking along nicely, and we all know how good she can be. How she's a wonderfully articulate individual, great thinker of the game. Has immense talent. It's about time she really got into the mix in one of these big events again. So I actually think Lydia Ko could surprise some of the big names this week. But in terms of it being a first-time winner, I think also that's been the recent trend. And I do think if we're going to have a first-time major winner, look at Nelly Cord as being obviously the best example of that. But then you look at Henderson and Daniel Kang, who are both former winners of the PGA. I think those two will be in contention. Minjee Lee, who we've spoken about for years as being potentially the next big thing, maybe hasn't quite fulfilled that potential yet, but she always knocks on that door. And this will be another example of that this week. I think she'll play well here too. Even someone like Nasa Hatoka, who's very consistent. Maybe doesn't win as much as she should, but she's always in contention. Someone who's always capable. We come to these big events, particularly events that are on big tough golf courses. People always look at Lexi Thompson as being a potential contender. She has that wonderful all-around game. So powerful off the tee. She can bring any golf course to its knees on her day. And she showed some very positive form at the ANA Inspiration, as she always does. In fact, she always plays well there. Can she translate that into a success in another major? I see Lex, it's been a while for her since she's really shown us her best form. She's someone who could potentially maybe save her season, if you like, by winning here or even contending here strongly. So beyond those players, I mean, I look at obviously the two English players, Georgia Hall, Mel Reid, both confidence high. We've spoken about them before earlier tonight. Both feeling good about their games. Georgia, who of course won the Women's Open 2 years ago, she's won a major. She's dealt with that pressure. For Mel Reid, it would be a new experience being in the mix in a major, but certainly there's no questioning the confidence there now. But I do think this week we'll see one of those, potentially top 10, top 15 players, even Sung Young Park, who another former winner of this event, who came back to the LPGA for the ANA Inspiration last month. Obviously was shut down during the COVID lockdown, hadn't played competitively for a long time. She's someone who, on her day, can do anything. She's so mercurial, so powerful. She's a wonderful swinger of the golf club. We've seen her, do so well in majors in the past. Sometimes disappears, doesn't really do very much. She's a little bit mercurial, a bit inconsistent at times. But on her day, she is almost unbeatable. So I look for her to play well this week and show some of her best form again. But I do think, Carlos, the two standout players are the two players who lost the ANA last month. Nelly Corda and Brooke Henderson. I think those two are the most likely winners this week. But I think it's going to be fascinating. I do think there are players here who, again, that mixture of youth and experience on a tough venue, players looking to secure a first major. But then those, in some ways, securing your first major, Carlos, is obviously a major thing. It's a breakthrough, an accomplishment, the ultimate pressure. But in some ways, backing that up with another one is something else. And we look at the likes of Brooke Henderson and Daniel Kang and Lexi. They haven't quite followed up that initial success. And I think getting a second major for any of those players will be a huge moment. And so there's pressure in different sides of it this week. But I think the venue will be a standout, and I do think it will bring out the best of these players. And I could see it being a fascinating week. But of course, as always in these majors, and particularly in the LPGA Tour, because the talent level is so deep internationally, players like Hannah Green can come out of seemingly nowhere and win these things and look, so accomplished. So you could easily see a first-time winner this week. But for a change, I do think one of the established names, one of those top 20 players, will win. Because I think the golf course here is one that demands that stature of player.
It definitely does, and but I could also see a first-time winner.
Yeah.
Maybe a player like Minjee Lee.
Yeah.
She's really played well. She's third right now on the race to the CME Globe, and that would be a player that I wouldn't really count out as those that would be coming. Another player that is playing really, really well, maybe stealth-wise, but we see her consistency here is being maybe Jody Warchadov. She's been playing really well, and she's just outside of the top 10 there, and she would be one that wouldn't surprise me, do well, and maybe even win and become there. Another winner, another player, very young player, and is one of the rookies that could expect to play well. She hasn't been really playing that well, but it's just I think this COVID-19 really hasn't the reason why I mentioned about the older players doing well. I think the younger players haven't been adapting as well to being on and off the course.
Yeah.
Because they don't have the experience as much as the veterans have been here all the time. They know how to adapt to virtually almost any circumstance. But Pati Tavatanaki is one of those players that I think is just due for a breakout at any time. And even though this is a very high stakes way of doing it, of trying to overcome it, I would go and mention, hey, remember what Danielle Kang did to win for the first time. It was even her first top 10, and it took 32 major championship appearances for Danielle Kang to win it. And, she just came and won out of nowhere. So, yes, this is a tournament that definitely demands a strong player to do it. Hannah Green demonstrated last year that, you can have a great tournament and come up and do very well. Jennifer Kupko seems like she's also overcoming her back that has been really limiting her. So I wouldn't be surprised to see her do well.
Yeah.
Now, players that I think will do well, I cannot count Nelly Corda out. Maybe the hottest player right now playing out of the top players. Inbee Park, three-time winner here, and she's number 2 right now on the CME Globe list. I mean, she knows how to play this tournament, and I wouldn't count her out. I mentioned earlier Stacey Lewis resurgence, and she seems to be playing really rejuvenated as well. I wouldn't be surprised to see her win here. But my top picks, I gotta go with Danielle Kang. I've been high on her all year. I think she's getting back. I think she just played too much and peaked. But right now, that 11th and 12th shared place finishes in her last 2 seems like she's getting her air back and getting there. But my pick to win, I think it's time for Brooke Henderson to win. And she won this one, becoming the youngest winner ever of this event. And she almost won her second major at the R&A Inspiration at the beginning of September. And I know she's eager for another great finish at another major. I just think she's due. She's playing. She's speaking there. She's speaking at the right time, and she's feeling very comfortable lately. And this is a course that suits her strengths. And I see her and Daniel Kang as my top two picks, Kieran, to win this tournament.
Yeah, and I think we talk about the stature of golf course, which can so often be a great indicator of who's going to play well in events and kind of player that plays well. And you look at both Brooke Henderson and Daniel Kang. When they won PGA, they both won in really tough venues. I mean, Brooke won on Sahali, Daniel Kang won at Olympia Fields. We saw how tough that golf course can play just a few weeks ago when John Ram and Dustin Johnson were competing there in the FedEx Cup. So two really tough venues. And this event this week will be very similar to those, this really challenging, resolute golf courses. And it's amazing when you think about, Brooke Henderson winning 4 years ago here, how she hasn't won a second major. And I mentioned it earlier about players who have won that major, whether it be Lexi or Daniel Kang or Brooke Henderson, who have so much fanfare, so much attention, such great players, but they haven't quite secured that second major that truly establishes them as being one of the ultimate premier players. We've seen we were against hard to win majors. We've been spoiled by players like Inbee Park and Yanni sang before her, who were able to win multiple majors seemingly in succession. It's a very rare thing. But to back up one major with a second major win is obviously a huge achievement. And I think Daniel Kang is one to look out for because she came back from lockdown, as you said, Carlos, and she was just spectacular in terms of her form. And she's finally now backing up that victory 3 years ago with consistent success on the tour now, winning multiple times. And she has to be among the favourites, quietly, as you say, playing decently the last couple of weeks, just playing okay, just not making headlines, not exerting herself, but just playing solidly. And that's exactly that's what you want to do going into the majors, just kind of tick along nicely, not use your energy levels, and just get ready for the big week. So I do think one of these main contenders will win. I think the golf course demands it. I do like Brooke Henderson very much as a player. Daniel Kang, I think Nelly Korda, who has so much game, is very capable of playing well here. But I see even from the outsiders, I do think we can see Jessica Korda play well here. I think Lydia Ko could have another good week and get another step towards her revival. Still a way off being her best from 4 or 5 years ago, but I do think she's getting towards being a potential winner in a major again in terms of experience. There's few players who can beat what she did several years ago. So, but again, as you say, Inbee Park as well, you can't rule her out because winning majors is an art, and she's the Picasso of winning majors. She's the Salvador Dali. She's the Michelangelo. She's done it all. I mean, how far can I go with this analogy? I mean, going forever, but she is the artist. Winning majors and might still have one more left in her. And as you say, she could tie that record of winning 4, and it wouldn't be a shock if she did that. So, yeah, I think this is going to be a great week. I think the field is strong. We're seeing, as you say, most of the big names are here, and most of them are playing relatively well, and they're a really good venue too. So I think this is all set up to be a really, really intriguing major championship, and one that will be a standout on the calendar this year. So yeah, it's an opportunity there for someone to win this week, and we'll have to wait and see who grasps that chance. Will it be one of the big names? Will it be an experienced player? Or will it be one of those surprise winners that can come out of nowhere and just shock you? You mentioned Jennifer Kupcho. She played so well last weekend. She had that niggling back problem, but she's someone who's quite fearless. And we saw last year, she finished second at the Evian. I mean, that was a stunning success there, in one of her first events as a professional. So she's not afraid of contending. She hasn't won yet. And you mentioned Jody Shadoff, an older player in her 30s now. I thought she would do quite well at the A&E Inspiration last month. She's never won in the LPGA Tour. But, it's one of those things where you see your compatriots. She's played in Solheim Cups, with Georgia Hall, with Mel Reid. You've seen them win, and you'll think, well, why can't I do that? It's about time I had my moment. And you never know it. This could be her week. So I think there's a lot of potential stories there. Stacey Lewis, I used to say, a revival, a major champion, multiple major champion, someone with so much experience, grit about, fantastic competitor, could be the kind of player that plays well here. So, I think this is going to be I'm looking forward to this week very much. I think the golf course and the field will mesh together, and deliver, hopefully, something equally as dramatic as what we saw at the A&A. This year so far, the LPGA majors, we waited a long time for them, obviously, but in terms of the stories this year and the drama, they've been pretty good. And I think this week will be another chapter in what's been quite an intriguing story on the LPGA this late season.
Definitely. With that, we wrap up our preview wall to wall here of the third and last major on the LPGA season here. So we look forward to a great tournament, and definitely anyone can come out on this Sunday and be the winner. Hopefully, it'll be one filled of a lot of drama. Now let's close the show here and with our final putts. I'm going to start talking about, that for the first time since golf's return during the coronavirus pandemic in June, a limited number of golf fans will be able to return to the PGA Tour when the Bermuda Championship tees off at Port Royal Golf Course from October 29 to November 1st. Now, a daily allowance has not yet been determined, but a decision will be reached by Bermuda's public health authorities in the upcoming weeks. So this is the first time that we'll see some fans, some sort of fans. We don't know the amount yet, but we have to mention that the island of Bermuda has reported around 200 confirmed cases and 9 deaths as a result of COVID-19 pandemic. And Bermuda is currently on the UK government's safe travel corridor, so they do not require visitors to quarantine at either end of their stays on the island. So that definitely is very key here for that. But again, we don't know until we see that happening. How is it going to work out? Another news, the PGA Tour Latin America announced this Tuesday that the 2020 schedule of tournaments is going to be a 14 tournament season. Will take players to 9 countries for 13 stroke play tournaments and its annual match play event. That season will begin in early March and end in late September. So the PGA Tour Latin America is going, but what is not going to be going is the 2021 Latin American Amateur Championship. They canceled it. That was announced today. It was canceled due to complications presented by the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, it was originally scheduled to play January the 14th to the 19th at the Lima Golf Club in Lima, Peru. Future championship plans are to be announced at a later date, according to the release. So we will see what happens. That is still one of those tournaments that definitely in a place that's still not very open because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So we'll continue to see how this goes. I don't know. The tournament champion receives an invitation to compete in the Masters tournament, the Open Championship, the Amateur Championship, and the U.S. Amateur Championship. So the champion and runner-ups also receive an exemption into a final qualifying for the U.S. Open. So we don't know what that's going to happen on that one. Very important for the amateurs. And this is one that I have been waiting for. And of course, if Fred would have been here, he would have been like, yeah, I know. Takumi Kanaya, the top-ranked amateur in the world, has turned pro. He's 22 years old, recent winner of the McCormick Medal as a world top amateur, and finally will be making his pro debut at the Japan Open Championship. That's in just next week, basically, October 15 to 18. He's exempt on the Japan Golf Tour through 2021, and per a news release, he aims to play on the European Tour by 2022, Kieran, so you'll have it there. He signed with WME Sports, which is the same company that, among others, represents Jordan Spieth, Patrick Cantley, and Daniel Kang. So good company there for him. I look forward to a very good professional career from Takumi Kanaya, Kieran.
Yeah, very much so. Certainly a name for the future. But I must quickly say, what does Hideki Matsuyama think about this? You've let him go. You've forgotten about him. You've dumped him for a younger model. This is terrible. This is how shameless of you, Carlos.
Hideki knows that we're talking about at some point he'll has to pass the torch, and
yes.
This is the guy that he will do it to.
Okay.
We got this covered. So Hideki knows he's still at the top, but we're just preparing his successor after him.
Okay, well, that's fair enough. But that's okay, because I actually thought you'd forgotten all about Hideki, because for years Hideki was your guy. He was your one Japanese guy. Now you get 2 of them, so that's okay. that I was concerned that Hideki was going to feel rather, disconsolate and devastated at finding that his biggest fan had forgotten about him and had gone for a younger guy now. But I'm glad that's okay. So yeah, you can have both. That's fine. But anyway, yes, moving swiftly on from that rather bizarre segue into we mentioned both of them earlier, Nelly Korda and Jessica Korda, who of course are both LPGA Tour stars, Solheim Cup players we saw last year at Glen Eagles. But are they part, Carlos, of the greatest family in sport? Well, that was the subject of an article by Steve Eubanks on the LPGA Tour's website this week. And this came after, and if you're a tennis fan, you'll have noticed this, that the younger brother, Sebastian, he's only 20, and he reached the fourth round of the French Open, where he lost to legend and his own idol, Rafael Nadal. Sebastian is a former Australian Open junior champion, and as keen listeners to the show will know, their parents, Petter and Regina, were both tennis professionals. Petter, he won the Australian Open back in 1998. So, tennis stars, golf stars, all in one family. I'd hate to go to Thanksgiving dinner at their house because you feel rather, outdone by their achievements, wouldn't you? It's I often wondered. I mean, you live in Texas, Carlos. I mean, how does Jeb Bush feel going to dinner with his brother and his dad? They're both president. He's not. I mean, that's gonna feel hard for him. So this will be similar to that. But I guess, are they the best family in sport? Well, I've got one alternative option who perhaps aren't quite at the same level of achievement, but it's very similar, and that is the Ruffles family. So Ryan Ruffles is making his way as a pro golfer, and of course many have been very impressed by his sister, Gabriella, who was the 2019 US Women's Amateur Champion, played very well with A&A Inspiration, just missed out on the top amateur honour there. And their father, Ray Ruffles, was one of the leading doubles tennis players of the 1970s. And he had singles success in the 60s. He reached a lot of semi-finals in Grand Slam events. He partnered with Billie Jean King to win doubles events. And their mother, Ana Maria Fernandez, was also a top 20 tennis player as well. So maybe not quite at the same level of achievement as the Kordas, but the Ruffles family, I think, in terms of, they're not too bad either. So the Kordas hard to beat as a sporting family, but the Ruffles family aren't too far away. But also, finally on the show tonight, Carl, my last final putt. I'm not going to free putt this one. I've got my eyes closed. My final putt. And if, Carlos, the back nine report doesn't work out for you anymore, you want to give it up, you want to move on, do something new, well, you can get a job with Acushnet, the host company, the corporation that oversees Titleist. And due to the interest, apparently, in golf this year, and people investing money in buying new golf equipment and new golf clubs, and engaging with the game, as we have seen evidence of that all across the world, actually, people are turning to golf as being a respite from the pandemic and lockdown and so on. And because of this, apparently, Acushnet are looking to hire over 200 people to meet this demand in golf. And they say at this time, due to the economic uncertainty and the impact of the pandemic, sadly, we've seen a lot of unemployment and people being let go and furloughs and things like this. So it's nice to actually see a story in golf and in the wider sporting industry about people growing, a company growing, and more jobs being created and more people being hired. So a good story there at Acushnet. I'm assuming, Carlos, that's where Fred has been this week, away doing his interview at Acushnet, looking for a job. But that's what he's been doing. That's what he didn't tell you. Oh dear, that's terrible.
No,
Anyway,
makes total sense now.
There you go. See, it all makes sense.
He was in the Football Hall of Fame, which is close to Acushnet. That's why. That's what it is.
I see. He's a very sneaky gentleman, isn't he? He's very sly.
I was going to prepare my resume and send it, but now that Fred's going to be there, well, we're going to have to continue to do the show then, if that's the case.
Oh, well, I'm sure. To be fair, that's not a bad option for us, I guess.
No, definitely. I mean, anyway. Anyway, Back Niners, we thank you. This wraps up another week of the Back Nine Report. Thank you for joining us. It's always our pleasure to bring you the latest on the world of golf. Special thanks to you, Kieran, for always so
Thank you.
masterfully filling in and be with us. I mean, you just elevate the show every time that you're here. Now, don't forget to see us again next week on YouTube, or if you missed it, check it out. Our audio version is on iTunes or TuneIn. If you haven't done so, what are you waiting for? Follow the show on Twitter. Our IDs at Back9 Report with the number 9 in the middle. My name is Carlos Torres, along with Kieran Clark. We wish you to be happy, be blessed, and enjoy the great game of golf. Happy golfing, everybody.
Until next time.